So let's continue talking about training for PPE. When we want to do that, obviously, is when the person first comes in. So as a new hire, when they first start. We also want to do that when there's any type of new equipment that's brought in, because there's obviously some PPE that needs to be worn with that, or if not, then we don't have to. Any type of new processes, procedures, the steps, the way, the tasks they're supposed to be doing. Any type of new job tasks, so if they're transferred to another area or they haven't worked in an area before, we want to make sure that they are trained in that. And then anytime that there's any changes in the PPE that are significant enough to make it PPE training necessary. So let's go ahead and talk about eye protection, and you can see a lot of different of the eye protection here. A lot of facilities do have this in specific areas, and most of you have probably worn eye protection in one shape or manner, whether it's in or out of work, but we'll kind of talk through this. With regard to eye protection, mainly we're utilizing that so that we don't have any type of injuries with regard to any type of flying particles or dust, any type of metals that might splash, or any chemicals that might be out there. But also too, we need to include bloodborne pathogens and any welding or lasers. And so we can find that in 1910 133, and then also 1926 102 when we look at it. So let's go ahead and let me switch over to this video, and you can watch this video while I get some PPE for you.
Worker was using a wire wheel on a sheet of metal when a tiny piece of wire shot out at high speed and pierced his eyeball. Not even an eighth of an inch long, the projectile caused too much damage to save his eye. Think this is just a harmless little screw? It was in the grass when a man edging the lawn with a powered string trimmer hit it, instantly turning it into a missile traveling fast enough to shoot directly into the center of his eyeball, penetrating the pupil and embedding itself deeply in the vitreous body. A man using a handheld sprayer squirted parts cleaner on some metal pieces. The stream of spray bounced back and hit him in both eyes. When the solvent made contact with his eyeballs, it started burning through the tissues covering the cornea. Blinded and screaming in pain, the chemicals caused extensive damage because it took him almost 20 minutes to find his phone so he could call for help. The delay cost him most of the vision in one eye and 15% in the other. A maintenance worker was refueling a generator when some of the fuel spilled over and hit the hot engine manifold, causing a flash fire. The fire was strong enough to burn off most of his eyebrows and some of his hair. The skin around his facial area received first-degree burns. When he took his safety glasses off, the only part of his face that had not been touched was around the eyes. Doctors told him that the safety eyewear he had been wearing saved his eyes, and without them, he might have been blinded for life. Almost 70% of eye injuries result from flying or falling objects or sparks striking the eye. Of the objects that caused the worst eye injuries, more than 60% of them were smaller than a pinhead. Most of these damaging little missiles were traveling at high speed when they injured the eyes. Chemicals in the eye account for almost 20% of eye injuries. Good safety eyewear is inexpensive, lightweight, easy to keep clean, and scratch resistant. Choose safety glasses that meet universal standards for proper eye protection. For example, OSHA requires protective eyewear in the United States to meet the minimum standards established by the American National Standards Institute, or ANSI. If you already wear glasses, your prescription lenses can be made to ANSI standards. Most safety eyewear also blocks damaging UV rays. And you can get safety eyewear for indoors or outdoors, and you can even get ones that are bifocal with varying degrees of magnification. Remember to wear your eyewear when working around the house. More than twice as many eye injuries occur at home than in the workplace. But whether you're at work or at home, don't be blindsided in an accident. Wear protective eyewear.
Okay, so as you can see from that video, there are some markings that are on the eyewear when we start looking at it. And a lot of times, and hopefully you guys can see this without it blurring up or something. Let me pull back. I don't know if you can, I don't think you can see it. But anyway, on the eyewear, if you look in the eyewear specifically, it will say Z87 is what it is, plus, or it will say Z87.1. And then also too, safety eyewear, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but like right here, there is some etching. And I know it's really hard for you guys to see that, but there's some etching right there, and those are going to be on the front of the safety eyewear. And the majority of the time, they're going to be on the eyewear. I've circled here. I don't know if you can see that there, just where that circle's at right there, and then it's going to be on the inside. And so you do want to make sure that it does say Z87. You can get safety eyewear in a lot of different things. This is just that simple pair. It's going to cost about, $2 or something like that. You can also get them with designer colors when you look at it. These are my safety eyewear that were given to me. So those are a little bit cooler than those average, and they have some more comfort with regard to the nose piece. I did have a student that did a test, and he did his paper in my other class with regard to that in presentation on safety eyewear. And he shot a BB, and I don't know if you can see it, like right there there's a BB shot. I know it's kind of hard to see. But he shot a BB through those, and this is a pair of regular sunglasses that he shot with a BB, and it broke apart, and so you can kind of see here that it has a big gash in it and everything. So he was trying to prove that these are the proper eyewear and these are not, and so I kind of maintain those. But there's a lot of different types of safety eyewear. It's not just one kind of eyewear, and OSHA does have a chart. I know this is kind of old and antiquated, but this is OSHA's chart. Actually their current chart when we start looking at it, but it kind of goes through, and there's a table in there which I'll show you in a second. And so if you were going to wear something that had to do with welding goggles, you could see here that this is why you would have to wear that, and this is kind of what they look like here. On the next slide, this is the selection guide. It's just retyped and put in there. So if you were going to be welding with acetylene, you can use 7, 8, and 9. And so if we go back here, this is 7, 8, and 9 would be what we would want to use. If we were using arc welding, we're going to use 9 and 11, and then a lot of times it's going to be number 11 with 4, 5, and 6 when we look at it. So 9 and 11, and then a lot of times 11 is going to have 4, 5, and 6, which are spectacles, and spectacles, depending on what type of frame you have on there. So this you would see on a quiz. You can come back to this and look at it, so you'll know exactly where that's at. So once again, you do have to comply with ANSI, and typically it's Z87, and it will be on that frame, typically in this area, and then it's going to be on the inside. You can see it in a lot of different areas on that, depending on what you're actually utilizing. So safety glasses, those can be our metal. They can also be plastic. Some operations will have some type of side guard. A lot of safety eyewear is kind of rounded around so that it has kind of that safety guides on the sides and that type of thing, and it's not just in the front. We also have it where it doesn't have a lot, but we do have a lot of injuries where it comes through these little holes that are in there. With regard to injuries, so dust a lot of times. Prescription eyewear, once again, the company doesn't have to pay for it, but a lot of companies do, and this is going to be just where if I wore contacts and maybe I wasn't able to wear the contacts within my type of business or something, that I would have to have prescription eyewear. Also too, they do have some, and I don't think I have any in here, that have the readers in this area, and so it goes 1 all the way up to 3 or 4, so you can kind of see that as well, but you can get those for your employees too. Goggles, when we look at it, those are going to have, and I don't have any goggles in here, but they're going to have more of a protection. It's going to have a form fit. This is something that you would have used in biology or chemistry when you were in high school or even here at college. They have like a form or fit. Also, too, if I have prescription eyewear and I can't wear my contact lenses, I would typically go with a pair of goggles, or sometimes you can do, depending on what you're working with, you can wear contacts. If it's a chemical or something that might dry it out, obviously you don't want to use it. Welding shields, most people know what these are. These are really innovative. They used to be pretty antiquated that look like this, and now they're in all different colors and that type of thing. And then the shields that are on them in this area sometimes are sensing, and so it senses what material you're actually working with. Some of them you have to dial it in, so those are really cool now. We could go into a lot of different information with regard to welding shields, but we'll just kind of stop there with that. And then finally, the laser safety eye goggles, when we look at that, and this is going to be if you do have lasers. Once again, you'd wear goggles if you were going to have those with prescription eyewear when we look at it, or we would want to make sure that we're looking at that. So here I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to go on to head protection, and we'll see you in just a minute.